We welcome Jon von Tetzchner, CEO and founder of the Norwegian browser maker Opera Software. And of course, we want to talk about browser technology. Jon, to begin with, Opera is still alive despite the fierce competition of the likes of Google, Microsoft, Apple, all heavyweights. How do you manage to do that?
It's all a question of focusing on the end users. I mean, from the very beginning, if you think about it, there was two of us when we started in 1994 and 1995. Quickly, the competition was Netscape and Microsoft and the like. What you do, you just focus on building the best possible product. And we've been managing to do okay. We've typically grown like 40-50% per year. We've added another 120 million users, active users during the last 2 years. So it is something that's really working for us.
You increasingly focus on mobile platforms, but your promise is still to keep a cross-platform experience for Opera. Isn't this ever hard to get with the multitude of mobile platforms that are emerging in terms of operating systems, form factors, etc.?
Actually, if anything, it's getting easier. I mean, we've been doing this for such a long time. I mean, at every one time, we're working on probably 150 projects across 20, 30 different operating systems. So we've done a lot to do the technologies to actually make that work as well as possible. So adding another operating system is relatively easy for us. And the operating systems are getting more powerful, which is making the task for us to deliver on them easier.
The browser is becoming more and more important. It's becoming something like the operating system of the web, basically. And we see companies like Google integrating native client support into the browsers to better run applications. How do you take account of this trend?
I think what is clearly happening, and you're right, is that the web is going everywhere. And this is something we've been working on for quite some time. The first time we were using this kind of technology is probably about 10 years ago, then for set-top boxes. So you'll buy a set-top box. You don't really see there's a browser in there, but you're controlling the functions of the set-top box. I mean, recording, it's a PVR and the like. You're doing the recording, you're pausing, you're moving images around, and this is something that we've been doing for a very long time. So for 10 years, we called this JavaScript plugins.
All right.
So, and basically it's the same principle that you're enabling native code. And we've been doing this for years. We've actually been playing around with some quite interesting use of this. We invented something called Opera Unite, which allows you to have a server on a device inside the browser. So you're running code which runs on the server. And then we're using the JavaScript plugin. So as an example of a use that we were doing was a remote control car with a camera on top that you were controlling with a web browser. So those kind of things are things that we are thinking about. Getting the web to be on every device and actually allowing it to be not only getting things from the web, but also being peer-to-peer and remote controlling.
How important is it for Opera to have a big ecosystem of people supporting it in terms of developing plugins, etc.?
All of that is very important. The most important thing, however, is for us to support the web.
All right.
I mean, the web is our ecosystem. And everything we do is about the web. We don't really see people having to program specifically for us. I mean, even to the level of, the widgets that we do, that's a W3C standard. So the World Wide Web Consortium is keeping that standard, and we are obviously engaging a lot with the W3C, helping write these standards, but there is a standard for this. When we launched extensions last year, our proposal was, okay, let's all the browser makers get together and let's agree on extensions and how we do this so we make it easier for developers. Because the web is all about writing once and running everywhere. And why should that not also apply to applications, read widgets, and extensions?
All right. So looking at all this, what is the next big thing to expect from Opera then?
I think what we'll continue to do is to expand into even more devices. I mean, clearly, we're on PCs, we're on mobile phones, we're on game consoles. We've been doing a lot of television recently. I mean, signed deals with Löwe, Sony, Philips, Sharp, Toshiba, all of them pre-installing Opera into their devices, not only for browsing but also for broadcast and for all the applications. I mean, various different use of the technology, which makes sense. And I mean, branching into cars, we're in Ford trucks, we are doing media players. So getting into all these different devices and then interconnecting them. And that's really important. That you have, as I mentioned with Unite, instead of just everything connecting to the cloud, I think certain things make sense to connect directly. If you have a home automation system that is web-based, obviously you don't want that to be necessarily connecting everything to the outside world. I mean, it makes more sense for things to connect more directly. So those are things that we are thinking about. How do you interconnect all the different devices? And at the same time, just continuing with what we've been doing before on the mobile side, providing support for all these thousands of phones, making it faster, integrating some services. Better mail integration, for example, is something that we're working on. So there's plenty to come. That's the one thing I can promise.
Okay.